I loved BGC, I liked IT Park, I liked a lot of things, but I hated the traffic. The perception I always got watching the YouTube videos was the Dumageddon and the Angeles City, all these people struggling on Social Security and whatnot. But in Iloilo, it's a very affluent area in Megaworld. You're desired, but you're not the prize. Don't regret any part of this at all.
All right, good afternoon, sir. Can you please introduce yourself for the audience?
I'm Paul McDonald. I'm a 63-year-old widower from Dallas, Texas, and this is my new adventure in the Philippines.
And what brought you to the Philippines, Paul?
Well, my wife passed away, and I was sitting there for a couple months. After she passed away, I never thought I'd be in another relationship. I was gonna just be a bachelor, but then my three kids are grown. I've got grandkids, they're all doing well. And so it's just me at the house with the dog, and the walls were closing in on me. Even when I would go out and have dinner with friends or my kids, you still come home to an empty house. And I realized I needed somebody in life, and when I looked at the dating scene in the States, it was like, no thank you, the horror stories. And I watched YouTube videos, and through that, it kicked me in the algorithm for the Philippines. And I've been a world traveler for the last 10 or 12 years, and I'm used to big moves, so I made the move here.
And you're living in Iloilo, correct?
Yes, we're living in Iloilo. When I started dating my Filipina, she was an OFW in Hong Kong, and she said that she was from Bacolod and Calatrava in Negros. And I went over to see her a few times in Hong Kong, and then I would take side trips to the Philippines, and I did BGC for a week and saw Tagaytay and all that stuff. I did Cebu and Mactan Island for a week. And then Chinese New Year, she had 5 days off, and I brought her home to Bacolod to meet the family. And we took a day and went over to Iloilo, and Iloilo just worked for me best. I mean, I loved BGC, I liked IT Park, I liked a lot of things, but I hated the traffic in Cebu and Manila. It was just terrible. And Bacolod is an up and coming city, but it's not quite there for me. And Iloilo with the Megaworld and all that, and the Esplanade, the walking that you do on the Esplanade along the river is unmatched in the Philippines. And I'm a walker. I walk an hour and a half, 2 hours. We walk an hour and a half, 2 hours each morning. So that was the final selling point for Iloilo.
So how long have you been living here in, not here, but how long have you been living in Iloilo, Paul? And I wanted to ask you also, how did you meet your now partner?
Well, we wound up going to Iloilo in May of this year, May of 25. And I had met her last summer, summer of 24, and I went and visited her in Hong Kong. And I did a trip where I met her online through Filipina Cupid. And she was actually the first one I met, but I mean, I talked for a couple months with a lot of ladies, but she was the one that fit everything. That every day I would wake up in the morning with a message from her, and she, I really felt her, and a lot of the other ones I would compare her to. And the reason I picked her first to contact was, you get hundreds of likes, and a lot of them are scams and bots and all that kind of stuff, but hers said that she was from Hong Kong, and I had no knowledge of OFWs. But I said, I've been to Hong Kong, I haven't been to the Philippines. Let me see what this lady's doing in Hong Kong. And so I messaged her, and we got along great. And so being retired and having the money and all that good stuff, I needed a trip. So they're off. The OFWs are off on Sunday, so I flew on like a Friday night, got adjusted to Hong Kong on a Saturday, went and found where she lived, picked her up on Sunday morning at 5:15 a.m. because that's how early she could get out of her building because they're restricted to their buildings. And we went back to the hotel, and then I took her to Disneyland, and she was thrilled to go to Disneyland. And then after about 5 or 6 hours at Disneyland, she wanted to go back to the hotel so we could visit. And we stayed out. She had to be back in at 8:45 at night. But that's how I met her. And after that, I started timing visiting her.
That's great. I'm really happy that you found someone who makes you feel comfortable and you're enjoying your time with. I want to ask, Paul, how does the Philippines compare to those other countries you visited? You mentioned you've traveled quite a bit.
Yeah, I've been to like 30 countries around the world and a lot in Asia. And I love the Philippines because everything's in English. I mean, when you walk, all signage, everything is in English, even though they're speaking, Bisaya and Ilonggo and Tagalog and all that kind of stuff. It's so nice. But the perception everybody always says in these videos is, oh, the people are so nice, this and that. Well, there's a lot of nice people, but there's their fair share of unscrupulous too. Because I've been to places like China where they've never seen a Western person, and they make you feel like a celebrity, want your picture taken and all that kind of stuff. So I think people a little bit overhype the friendliness part of it. There's unscrupulous characters out there, and you need to be careful. And my girlfriend reminds me of that all the time. Even though she's from Bacolod, she said there's some not so nice areas in Bacolod and she wouldn't let me go on to at night,
I want to ask you, Paul, what do you love about the Megaworld lifestyle in Iloilo? And for those who aren't familiar with Megaworld, can you describe Megaworld for the audience?
Yeah, our Megaworld over in Iloilo it's basically they said it's the same size as BGC, same developer and stuff like that. And it's probably halfway done. It's got a long ways to go, but there's a lot of condos, and we live in one of the condos, and there are a lot of expats in the condos, and the perception I always got watching the YouTube videos was the Dumaguete and the Angeles City, all these people struggling on Social Security and whatnot. But in Iloilo, it's a very affluent area in Megaworld. I mean, I have 2 doctors that are in the building next to me. I have an attorney in my building. I mean, you don't see anybody cutting corners where I'm at. They're all thoroughly enjoying living in Megaworld, and there's a good camaraderie with the people that live in that area.
And I've only seen pictures of Iloilo so far, but from what I can see, it looks like there's a lot of European influence with the infrastructure. Is that accurate?
Yeah, there's a lot of old Spanish architecture and stuff like that. And they got a lot of really old, neat churches and stuff like that.
It looks really modern also, though.
Yeah, in the Megaworld section it was the old airport, and Megaworld built on the old airport site. And it's right next to SM City. It's got a big mall right next door, and they've got condos that butt up to Festive Walk, but they have a wall in between the two because the developers don't get along because they're in business against each other. But it's a pretty good sized bubble area, and there's a good healthy middle class in Iloilo. But yeah, I can go down the street and turn the corner and I'm in the real Philippines,
If someone visited Iloilo for the first time, what's the first place that you would take them, Paul?
I would take them to the Festive Walk area and show them around the Koreatown section of it, and over to the mall area. And I'd definitely take them to the Esplanade and take them on a walk for the Esplanade. And if you're a walker, a biker, jogger, it's really incredible.
Would you mind sharing with the audience about how much money it costs to live the lifestyle that you do in Iloilo?
Well, you're basically, if you're going to live in Megaworld, you're basically going to pay $35,000 and up. You might be able to get a studio for $30,000, but for a I have a 2-bedroom with a maid's quarter too, and so there's basically 3 baths in there, and I'm paying $40 for it, but really my landlord kind of underpriced it. There are 2 units available in the same size in the building, and there's 60,000 pesos, and that's the going rate. So my landlord kind of struggles a little bit because he undersold it, but most of the guys that live like in a 1-bedroom with a maid's quarter, they're paying 35,000, maybe 40,000.
And is there a pool? Is there a gym in your
Oh
condo?
yeah, they've all got pools and gyms, and that's all common. And there's other units around town, but they're older units, and you notice it when you walk through it. And everybody always says, "Oh, you want to rent the newest buildings." And when you go through the newer buildings, I live in Lafayette, and it's one of the newer ones, but there's an even newer one next to us called the Palladium. And you notice the difference. The age gets these buildings, and that's why they always say, don't buy, just rent. You can always move along, but no, it's a good life there.
As far as quality of life, do you think Iloilo has the most to offer compared to the other cities in the Philippines that you've been?
Well, it kind of depends on what your activities are. I'm not a diver, I'm not a fisherman, a lot of things that other people like. I want to go for my exercise, go 1.5 to 2 hours of walking it. And we do that every morning, and we walk through Megaworld, and then we take like a 10-minute walk on city streets to the Esplanade, do a couple laps around it, and take a taxi back after an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's more than 10,000 steps. And that's a selling point for me. But I don't see a lot of other expats out there, but I'm out there early in the morning to beat the heat. And the rest of the time we got golf courses there that are available. I take advantage of the massages that you can get, because in the Philippines you can get a massage from anywhere, typically in the bigger cities, from 400 to 650 pesos, and with a tip, you're talking $10, $11, $12. In the States, they'd be upset if you gave them a $10 tip on one there. So I take advantage of that, and the easygoing part of life, and I love getting together with the other expats. But getting together with other expats is an adventure, because, as your Filipina has to like the Filipina that's with the expat that and then there's differences. I can run across somebody that's 45 years old, and he's got his girlfriend's the same age as mine, 35, but they've got young kids, kind of like you have a young child. And my lady's got 3 teenagers that don't live with us. They live in Calatrava, and so it's just the 2 of us. So trying to find that mix of ones to hang out with. But we have a lot of dinners there, and there's a lot of interaction and good times with the fellow expats.
Has there been an adjustment that was difficult for you in your adventure moving to the Philippines?
I've really enjoyed a lot of things. The wet season can get a little old when you get rained at from walking a couple days in a row, and also the ferry boats get disrupted by the typhoons. Even though a typhoon might not be close to here, they'll put out a signal 1 out, and then they stop all ferry boat movements. So you can get stranded on these different islands. Even trying to get from Iloilo to Bacolod, we were supposed to come over last Friday, but Friday and Saturday the boats were canceled. Then on Sunday morning they announced they were open, and we jumped on the boat and came over here. But I've talked to other expats that say that they'll go to a place like Siquijor and love it and spend a couple weeks there, and then a storm rolls in, and then they're stranded on the island, and there's no supplies coming in on the small islands. So you know, the wet season, I'm ready for the dry season to fully be here, but you know, nothing else has bothered me at all.
What advice would you give to other expats thinking of moving to the Philippines or to Iloilo specifically?
You know what's most important to you, and go to that place, and take bits and pieces from the vloggers. You know, all the vloggers know stuff about the Philippines, but there's so much out there that they don't know that you're gonna figure out for yourself when you get here. You know, take everything with a grain of salt, and you'll be okay.
Is there something that the vloggers put out that you don't necessarily agree with? And is there something that you think maybe doesn't get talked about enough?
I think the whole thing about some of them saying about us older guys, you're the prize. That's not the case. We're not the prize. We're certainly attractive to a large group of ladies in the Philippines. But when you're in these bubble cities and stuff like that, these people have money. And when you know, they talk about, oh, you want to meet somebody that's a nurse, call center and stuff like that. Well, those ladies are in their 20s and early 30s and whatnot. I see them every day as I walk through there. You're oblivious like you're a senior in the United States to them, because they have money and they're looking for a like person themselves. You know, but you know, I found a great lady and have lots of friends that have great ladies, but you're gonna meet them pretty much outside of those bubble areas and stuff like that. And you know, you just got to engage. I mean, you're going to lock eyes with ladies like, and you're going to just say, wow. But, you know, I have my lady, I'm happy. But there's a lot of, with all these expat get-togethers I've been to, and I went to one in Cebu and the ones here, there's a large group of guys, 50, 60, and 70 years old, they're constantly looking for a lady. And I mean, there's a lot of them, and they do the dating site stuff, and they sit at the coffee shops looking around. But some of them, you know, just really picky what they want, and there's so many available, because if I go without Isa to a place like to get a haircut, and the ladies are in there, then it's, wow, sir, where are you from? Do you have a wife? And you know, and they're chat me up, and then when I tell them I have a wife, do you have any friends, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And you know, it's out there, but you know, most of them are going to be ladies that are in their 30s and 40s and stuff like that, and they're beautiful ladies. It's just some of the guys are, you know, wanting to find a 22-year-old, a 24-year-old, and whatnot, and they're constantly looking. I mean, you're desired, but you're not the prize, is basically what I'm saying. I found a special someone, and just the little things you do for them, you know, and they do for you, and you know, it's a new adventure in life. You know, the fanciest places in the Philippines don't compare to the fanciest places in the States, but it's a comfortable living in the bubble. But you know, we go out to the province, to her house up in the hills of Negros, and you know, it's a whole different world out there, and you just take it all in, and you know, but she likes living the condo life and whatnot. So, but if you're gonna go to the Philippines, figure out your budget, and know that there's a lot more wealthy expats over here than people think there are. And I know it from living in Megaworld, and I know being in BGC and parts of Cebu, there's a lot of wealthy expats that are living here, but the majority of the vloggers down in Dumaguete and Angeles and stuff like that, you know, they're on a tight budget, and they're doing YouTube because they need the income. And you know, when you live off Social Security, that's a tough way to go. And you know, I'm fortunate that I had a job that gave me a pension, and I have my Social Security is a survivor benefit because my wife's medical issue, she was on Social Security disability, so I can draw my own at 70 and it'd be a lot more than what I'm getting now. But these guys that drew when they were 62 and they're in their 70s now, with inflation, that's kind of painful. And but that puts out the persona that a majority of the guys over here are living off Social Security, which that's not the case. There's a lot of wealthy expats over here. I consider myself a snowbird because every 2.5, 3 months, I fly home for 2 weeks to see my family, and I come back here, and Isa will go to the province to see her family or go to Cebu to see one of her sons, and then after 2 weeks I'm back here. But I have the means to buy the airline tickets to go back and forth, and you just kind of got to look at it that, I was sitting around home in a beautiful home back in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but I was bored, and now I'm energized with this, and it's exciting, and I really enjoy that, and don't regret any part of this at all.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Paul. Do you have anything else you'd like to add for the viewers? That's about all the questions I got for you.
Come to the Philippines for a vacation. Do 2 or 3 weeks, and wherever you're going to go, try and hook up on Facebook with the local groups. Avoid the Philippine Facebook group. If you're going to Iloilo or Cebu, you want to hit those Facebook groups and go to some of the expat meetups, because if you come to Iloilo, I will help you find a lady there, because there's plenty of them that ask if I have any friends and whatnot. But it's networking. You find out a lot of stuff, and take the chance, take a trip.
Beautiful. Thanks again, Paul. And if you guys like this video, please leave a comment, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, see you guys.